This is Tales from the Cube, a podcast about call centers, what it's like to work in them, the good, the bad, the ugly, the funny and not so funny side of what it's like working in a call center. Hi, this is episode 23017. I am Clint, and today's episode is about the phrase we hear at the start of the call to a business where a call center is deployed. This call may be recorded for quality and training purposes. It is the preamble to the start of every call made in a call to a business where you are going to interact with an agent. The question is it true? Does the call recording get used for training and quality purposes? The answer is yes. However, only some call recordings are reviewed. I will explain what a quality evaluator does in the next episode, so consider this part one of how quality works in call centers. Quality and training go hand in hand. The call can be scored for quality used by trainers to show current and new staff how to handle a call. But before we can do the training and quality parts, we must ensure the recording part is done correctly. In the United States and Canada, laws govern how recording of calls from businesses are to be done. This is also true of any calls to a business. For this episode, I am going to focus on how Canadian laws apply. In the U.S., they differ as each state has different laws for the practice of recording a call. I will include a link in an article that explains how recording calls work in the United States. So let's look at Ontario, where I am. Laws regarding the recording of calls are covered by federal law and an act called the Personal Information Protection and Electronic Documents Act. That's a mouthful, isn't it? I'll reread that. It's called the Personal Information Protection and Electronic Documents Act, or PIPEDA. This act states the following must be done. Your recording must be done for a specific purpose. The purpose for the recording must meet reasonable person's test. You must inform the individual that the call may be recorded and make a reasonable effort to ensure that the individual understands the purpose for the recorded information and how it's going to be used. Recording must only take place if you have the individual's consent. Any information collected must only be used for the purposes already specified to the individual. Organizations must ensure that they comply with all other provisions of PIPEDA with respect to matters such as safeguards, access, retention, and disposal. Now, in this act, there are a lot of things mentioned. The reasonable person test is one of them. What on earth is that? Well, it is a legal term. A reasonable person is someone who is prudent and shows care for those around them. They think before they act, and where they see a risk of harm to others, they try to prevent it. The law says you have to protect people's data and person. There is no going around this. You must protect the caller's data to pass the reasonable person test. PIPEDA applies to most businesses in Canada, except for those located in Quebec, British Columbia, and Alberta. These provinces have their private sector laws. PIPEDA still covers federally regulated industries such as transportation, telecommunications, and banking, including call centers in these provinces. These regulations are to be followed in the majority of cases. There are some cases where consent is not necessary under PIPEDA, included instances such as debt collection, investigating potential fraud cases, other cases where knowing a call is being recorded could damage an organization's ability to obtain important information. Rules apply to calls initiated by you and your customer. The guidelines given by PIPEDA apply to both calls initiated by the customer and those initiated by the business. Rules apply to all contracted third parties. So a company like, ABC that works on behalf of company DEF, they basically have to make sure that they're following DEF's guidance with respect to this because PIPEDA applies to that business. So rules apply to all contracted third parties. So if your business contracts out some or all of your phone calls to call centers and telemarketing or any other services similar to these, you must also ensure that these third parties are acting on your behalf in a manner that is also responsible and also complies with PIPEDA as well. Information other than content of the call can be gathered. Recording of phone calls can be used to gather more information than simply the content of the call. For example, a worker or customer's tone of voice can be used in legal proceedings and can be used to infer information about those in the call, such as ethnic background or age. So the key word here is care. You must ensure that you do the correct thing in every interaction with your customers. The penalties are severe for violations. The Office of the Privacy Commissioner of Canada enforces PIPEDA. So the key words here is care. You must ensure that you do the correct thing in every interaction with your customers. The penalties are severe for violations. The Office of the Privacy Commissioner enforces PIPEDA, and they can also levy fines for breaches. The OPC wants to refrain from using legal means to enforce rules, but will do it if a company does not apply or cooperate with the investigation. So, what can happen if you say, nah, I'm not going to work on this one, not going to work with these guys? Then expect your organization to face the following for non-compliance with PIPEDA. Financial penalties. Businesses and organizations can be fined up to $100,000 for every violation. While the fine might not be levied for every PIPEDA violation, OPC is aggressive in its investigations. Examples of this are MGM, Oculus, and Home Depot. They've all been investigated and caught for violating PIPEDA in the last 18 months. Further legal action. While OPC is limited in its jurisdiction and penalties, organizations violating PIPEDA may be referred to the Attorney General of Canada. Between OPC and the Attorney General, organizations could be audited, forced into compliance agreements, be asked to disclose vital company behavior to the public, or punished in other ways. But the biggie is the third penalty, and this one is pretty bad if you get into this situation. Reputation loss. Let me repeat that. Reputation loss. Public perception is the biggest threat to organizations and the biggest encouragement to comply with PIPEDA. When the public finds out that an organization has breached PIPEDA, that organization cannot be trusted safely to handle customers' private information. With 92% of the public expressing major concerns about how organizations manage their personal data, the OPC publicly denounces a business for PIPEDA non-compliance. So, how do you avoid all of this in a call center setting? The key is quality control. Having a team of trained evaluators helps to ensure that PIPEDA rules are followed to the letter. You should also follow other guidance if a breach does happen or an OPC investigator calls on your center. You want to do the following. Be friendly. Remember that the OPC has the best interests of both the public and private organization in mind. If there's an effective way to enforce PIPEDA without punishing an organization, the OPC will strive to find that solution. Notify the Privacy Commission and affected individuals about breaches. If your organization suffers a security breach or data theft, reach out to both the OPC and all consumers affected by the breach. The sooner you notify everyone, the sooner everyone can take the necessary steps to protect themselves and undo the damage caused by the data breach. Always maintain records of data breaches. Good record keeping is going to help you when discussing data breaches. Detail will create a better understanding that the OPC has of the situation, and the more equipped they'll be to help your organization rather than punish you for the failure. Thoroughly document all breaches that your organization suffers. Include what was lost in the circumstances and also what led up to and during the breach. Keep track of the potential security breaches in your organization. Per the regulations of PIPEDA, organizations are expected to perform Privacy Impact Assessments, or PIAs. These evaluations determine the potential security risks of their organizations and the individuals who collect data and data handling tasks. Better PIAs result in greater PIPEDA compliance. So before you do anything regarding any call recording in your center, follow the above rules. Protect your company, your staff, and the customer. Preventing problems is always better than trying to fix them, so make a considered effort to ensure the PIPEDA compliance is there. A few suggestions to achieve this are: perform regular PIAs and other data handling reviews. Remember, the rules say you must do this. So, do so, and go beyond what is required. Maximize security and minimize risk. Take the time to invest and install advanced data security protection. Also seek ways to reduce the risk that comes from collecting, using, and distributing consumer data. Then make sure you follow up on the findings that you have. Breach reporting is mandatory. Do it immediately. Per the rules of PIPEDA, organizations must immediately report data breaches to the OPC. Failure to do so may lead to significant penalties and aggravate the harm caused by the data breaches. As embarrassing as it may be, report all data breaches right away. OPC can provide resources and experts to help you contain the harm caused by the breaches and minimize the fallout and reduce the likelihood of OPC penalties. Consult PIPEDA and data privacy experts to help. Many other professionals specialized in data security and data privacy. These people help with law and compliance. Consult them and follow their advice to the letter, whatever they offer. OPC can also be a good resource that can help improve policies to ensure PIPEDA compliance. Consider data discovery and protection tools. Depending on your platform and type of business, you may benefit from data privacy protection software. These data platforms will bolster your consumer data security and regularly update to help your organization stay PIPEDA compliant as this will evolve. The legislation regarding PIPEDA is always evolving. So there you go. There's some tips for you to basically help you out with regard to setting up a call recording message and also doing the call recording itself and ensuring that the quality and compliance is there. These are the kinds of steps you really do want to follow. It's so important to basically go forward with them, because at the end of the day, you don't want to face $100,000 in fines or other things like audits and being forced into compliance through agreements and the like. And for you as an agent working on the call, you want to remember that that call might be recorded. You're going to be recorded. And if you make the mistake of not adhering to these rules and violating into compliance, then basically you could be facing some pretty hefty things as well, such as loss of your job, possible fines, or even jail for working in a sense that basically you allowed a fraud to be perpetrated against the company. So that can be something that you want to not have on your back or in front of you having to deal with. So it's important to do all of these things and remain in compliance with the PIPEDA Act. And I will basically go forward in the next episode, talk about what a quality evaluator does, how they listen to calls, what they do, and why they do it. We've already discussed, but I'll touch back on this again. Thanks for listening to Tales from the Cube. My name again is Cliff. We'll see you in the next episode. Thanks for listening to Tales from the Cube. You can hear us on all the major podcast platforms such as Spotify, iHeartRadio, Google Podcasts, and wherever else you listen to podcasts. We'll see you in the next episode.